He paid his home loan for 20 years and still lost his house to a piece of paper taped to his front door. No missed payments on his end, no sudden gambling debt, no reckless financial bets. Just one day, everything he built was gone. And what happened to him? It's not rare. It's not unusual. In fact, it's a risk built into how many American mortgages are structured right now. Because here's the truth your lender will never tell you. You don't always lose your home because you ran out of money. Sometimes you lose it because you trusted the system to work. This is the story of Robert Calloway, and a responsible decision he made at 31 quietly started a countdown timer that would detonate 20 years later. Robert grew up in Cleveland. His father worked double shifts, 6 days a week, hands always rough, eyes always tired. And every night without fail, his dad repeated the same line: "A man without a roof is a man at the mercy of the world." Robert didn't fully understand it back then, but those words didn't leave him. They stayed like a quiet fear sitting in the background of his life. Robert didn't grow up chasing luxury. He wasn't dreaming about sports cars, vacations, or high-risk investments. He chased something far more elusive: certainty. A stable job, a fixed income, a predictable life. The kind of life that feels safe until it isn't. At 31, Robert made the decision he believed would finally silence his childhood fear. He bought a house. $219,000, 4 bedrooms, a quiet neighborhood, a backyard with a tall maple tree that turned bright red every fall. To Robert, this wasn't just a house, it was armor. It was proof that he had escaped the life he grew up fearing. He sat across from the loan officer, pages stacked in front of him, dense legal language, clauses buried inside clauses. "This is standard," the officer said. And like most people, Robert signed. He trusted the system. That night, he stood alone in his empty house. He placed his hand on the drywall slowly and felt something he had never felt before: ownership. For 20 years, nothing went wrong. Every month, exactly $1,140 was drafted from his checking account, paid automatically. No thinking, no checking, no stress. Because when something works perfectly, you stop questioning it. You stop watching it. And this is where the silent mistake begins. Not with a bad decision, but with blind trust. Then, 2019 arrived, and in a single afternoon, everything shifted. Robert lost his job. No warning, no gradual decline. 16 years of corporate loyalty vanished in a 15-minute HR meeting. At 51, he didn't just lose his income, he lost his certainty. But Robert was responsible. He received a modest severance package, and because his greatest fear was losing the house, he did what any smart provider would do. He did something most people would call smart. He calculated exactly 12 months of mortgage payments, down to the dollar, and moved it into a separate account, untouched, protected, a financial bunker. He even told his wife, no matter what happens, the house is safe for 1 year. That sentence would come back to haunt him. He stopped looking at that account, because looking at his main checking account, watching it drain as he desperately hunted for work, was already causing him enough anxiety. But what Robert didn't know is this: your mortgage isn't fixed to one bank. It can be sold again and again and again to servicing companies you've never heard of. Right in the middle of his job hunt, his mortgage was sold. A letter was sent, a simple, plain text notification from a company he didn't recognize. It looked like junk mail, a refinance offer, something to deal with later. And like most stressed, overwhelmed people, Robert threw it in a drawer. Because from his perspective, nothing was broken. The money was sitting in the bank. But the system had already changed. When the servicer changed, his old auto pay didn't transfer over. No text alert, no red flag on his door. Month 1 passed. $1,140 sat untouched in his dedicated account. Month 2 passed. Month 3, month 4. Robert, drowning in resumes and final round interviews, never noticed, because in his mind, the most important bill in his life was already taken care of. That belief cost him everything. And here's the part almost no homeowner knows. There's a clock, and once it starts, it doesn't stop for confusion. It doesn't stop for honesty. It only counts down.
By the 120th day, federal law allows a mortgage servicer to take action. The system moved from billing to active foreclosure. A certified letter arrived, not junk mail this time. Notice of default. Robert's chest tightened. His hands froze. He immediately logged into his dedicated mortgage account. The money was all there, untouched. Over $4,500 just sitting there. He exhaled. "It's just a glitch," he told himself. "I have the money. I can fix this." He called the new servicer immediately. He explained the misunderstanding. He offered to wire the 4 months of back pay that very second. And then, the customer service rep read a sentence that had ended thousands of cases just like his. "Sir, your loan has been accelerated. At this stage, we can no longer accept partial payments." Robert froze. "Partial? I'm trying to pay everything I owe you." "You owe the past due balance, plus late fees, property inspection fees, and our attorney's retainer for the foreclosure filing," the voice said coldly. "The total to reinstate your loan is $14,200. Robert didn't respond, because in that moment, he realized something terrifying. The problem was no longer money. It was time, and he was already out of it. 4 months. That's all it took. Buried inside his original contract was a clause that changed everything. Because once he crossed that line, the bank didn't just want the missed payments, they wanted everything. This wasn't a mistake anymore, it was a machine. And once the foreclosure machine starts moving, it doesn't stop for explanations. It doesn't care about your severance account. It doesn't care that you were trying your best. It only follows the math. Robert didn't have $14,200. He was unemployed. So he tried to fight it. He hired a cheap lawyer. They filed paperwork. But here's the part no one prepares you for. Fighting a bank is expensive, and the bank adds their legal fees to your tab. Month by month, the debt compounded. $14,200 became $19,000. $19,000 became $26,000. The stress seeped into the drywall of the house. His wife, Patricia, stopped sleeping. His kids stopped asking for things, sensing the heavy, unavoidable silence in the living room. Robert stopped talking, because every word he could say led to the same conclusion. This wasn't fixable anymore. Because how do you tell your family that everything is collapsing, not because you failed as a provider, but because you didn't open a piece of mail? Eventually, the legal fees bled him dry. The house went to a county auction, bought by an LLC he couldn't even look up. And then came the knock on the door, a local sheriff, taping a piece of paper to the front door, a final notice to vacate, giving him just weeks to leave. 20 years of payments, 20 years of memories, the maple tree in the backyard, the hallway where his son took his first steps, all of it reduced to a 30-day deadline. In that moment, standing on his porch, Robert finally understood the brutal reality of the American middle class. He never truly owned the house, because ownership isn't about how many years you pay, it's about who holds the contract. He signed the final papers, packed his family in a rented truck, walked away. Today, Robert lives in a small apartment across town. Near the window, there's a wind chime. It's the only thing he took from the backyard of the old house. Sometimes when the wind blows, it makes a soft, hollow sound, and for a brief moment, he's back there, under the maple tree, in a life that felt unbreakable. But then the sound fades, and reality returns. He had the money. He made the payments. He followed every rule. and he still lost everything. Not because he failed, but because he assumed the system would work the way he thought it did. So understand this clearly. Your biggest financial risk is not losing income, it's losing awareness. Check your accounts every month. Read every letter, even the ones that look like garbage, because the system doesn't break loudly, it breaks quietly. And by the time it finally makes a sound, it's not a warning, it's the end.